Hey, welcome to Guitar Knobs, the guitars, gear, noise, and nonsense podcast, hosted today by these knobs.
Tony Dudzik, Pick Guardian.
Jared Brandon Wound Pickups.
Hey, this is me, Todd Novak. Thank you so much for joining us for the Guitar Knobs podcast. We're really excited to be hanging out together and talking about awesome guitar stuff. We've got a fantastic show for you. Tony, what are some of the things we do on the show?
We like to talk about gear, and we like to talk about, and to sometimes, the people that are making this gear.
Yep.
And that could be anything from guitars to amps to pedals to pickups and speakers.
Yeah.
Speakers.
Yep.
And pick guards.
And Jared, what do we have occasionally?
A nice Learningful 101 episode.
A Learningful.
A learning.
That's right.
Look that up in your dictionaries, everybody.
I wouldn't.
Okay. So, speaking of 101s and speakers, who do we have on the line right now?
John Sanchez, Warehouse Guitar Speakers, alongside Trevor English, also Warehouse Guitar Speakers.
Woohoo. Welcome, gentlemen.
Thank you so much.
Forever.
Yeah, thank you.
You can say hi too, buddy.
Hi.
John said I wasn't allowed to talk.
He only beats me a little.
Yeah.
Morale doesn't improve any other way.
So
like it.
we've got John out in Portland, and we have Trevor in Kentucky, and we're in Ohio. We're just reaching across all over the place.
That's right.
That's it.
We're practically international.
We're practically international.
Coast to coast.
Yes.
Sort of.
Well, we for sure are international. We've got listeners all over the world.
Yes.
And hello to everyone out there in the far reaches of the world, wherever you are, eager to hear about guitar stuff. This is Speaker Replacement 101. Woo! Yes, we got a 101 series back in action, and we'll get into everything that we're going to talk about then. But I can assure you, it's about speaker replacement. So stick around. We got a couple of announcements really quick. Everybody, we want to just give a little bit of extra thanks to what we're calling, actually what Mark Paget termed this as, the Patreoner role. Now, these are the patrons that have been supporting us that are not exactly at the executive producer level, but have nonetheless been supporting us for a very long time, and they keep this place running. So thank you so much. We're going to run through these and recognize everybody on this list. Connor Malarkey, Martin Cliff, Nutter Guitars, CJ Mapes, David Kaminga, Mark Paget, Steven Sassville, Oliver Gonzalez, Robert Marfleet, Robin Smith, Peter Marshall, Carlos Mancha, David Wolfson, Derek Fitzer, Jared D. Armit. I said that with such conviction. Jared D. Armit, David Hare, Monkey 13. That's real. Fatfoot Effects, Jason Rudiger, Co Schneider, Nicholas Ogburn, and Hamish Haynes. Thank you all so very much for supporting our show in ways that, don't get as much of the recognition, but everybody certainly got some great rewards from us. So at whatever level you want to get in at, we welcome your help and support. It means a lot to us. So thank you. All right. We also want to give a big shout out to Rode Microphones for the Rodecaster Pro recording unit that we are using. We also want to give a big shout out for the Procaster mics that have been in front of each of our mouths for quite a long time.
What are these mounted
on? We're smart enough not to stay in our own place. That's what we're smart enough to do. These are mounted on articulating arms, Tony.
Thank you.
You know full well.
Love them.
All right. We are going to welcome Warehouse Guitar Speakers into the fold as we discuss very briefly, because we've got a big show, what is going on in our music worlds this week. Tony, would you like to lead us off, and then we'll jump over to those guys?
Okay, that sounds fair. So we talked a little bit last time about the Eric Carmen Joan Jett Melody Maker that I'm putting together, not for you, but I'll let you touch it. I'll let you look at it from a distance. That's weird. That's the kind of guy I am. But anyhow, work has begun. I posted some things on Instagram, so we're going to do kind of a time-lapse analysis of the project. So had to do a little bit of filling work, got a little bit of body work and sanding to do, and then it'll be off to MJT Custom Guitar
trip to the
Finishes.
spa.
It was not a trip to the spa. It was not. It was not.
All right.
And I'll get that thing painted up. I got all the other parts together, and once it's painted, it'll be a quick assemble.
That's awesome. I can't wait to see that thing. Let's hop over to John Sanchez. John, what is going on in your music world this week?
This week, guitar tech buddy of mine, Chris Draper, is on tour with Daniel Caesar, and he stopped through Portland, had a day off on Monday, and came back to the house and geeked out over a bunch of speakers and talked about tone and all sorts of stuff. So that was fun, and then just messing around with these pedal kits that we'll get into later. And
Yes.
and spread the word about that. So that's what my week's been.
Awesome. Jared, how about yourself?
Our friend Drew showed us a picture of a white Flying V, an Epiphone white Flying V, given to Jeff Schroeder by one of his buddies at that place for Tesla. And I had the pleasure of building a set of pickups for that guitar. And now the guitar is all white. The fretboard is white. It's got red perloid pickguard and white knobs. So the white pickups that were previously in it were just kind of a dull white whatever. So I built a set of pickups for Jeff, and what I did is I used some clear bobbins, and I painted on the inside of the bobbins one red and one white,
Zebra
like
style.
a zebra
not
style.
One pickup was red and one pickup was white.
Yeah, so each pickup was a
Humbuckers.
red-white humbucker.
Right.
And it had kind of that clear on the top, but underneath was the color.
Yeah.
So it kind of matched the knobs that were on the guitar. Looked really great.
And those are based on the tone that is in the other
Two guitars
pickups that you've done for him.
Yep, very
Awesome.
similar.
Very cool.
Sounds like a candy cane.
Yeah. So anyway, Drew
like one. It was
Drew
amazing.
installed them the day we gave them to him when we
Played
were
them that night, right?
Played him on stage.
Played it that night.
It was
Sweet.
awesome.
It was great,
hopefully,
man.
if you guys have seen our Instagram feed with plenty of those shots, if you haven't, go check out @Guitar Knobs on Instagram, and you will see exactly what we're talking about and lots of other awesome stuff.
That was a big highlight. So
Fantastic. While I'm speaking of that, if you want to go over to Trevor, you manage some of the social stuff. Where
Yeah.
can people check out Warehouse Guitar Speakers right now?
It'll be WGS USA on Instagram or Warehouse Guitar Speakers on Facebook mostly. Otherwise, this week we just started a new series on YouTube called Monday Morning Loops, where we will Daniel, our resident guitarist, kind of been a mentor of mine since I've been here, and he creates soundscapes with looping pedals and does all sorts of crazy things. But we just uploaded our first Monday morning loop where Daniel lays down a loop, and it's pretty cool. So check that out on Warehouse Guitar Speakers on YouTube, and we'll be putting one out every Monday.
Good.
Todd, what about you? What's going on in your musical world?
anything new, my friend?
Yeah, my musical world. Well, we need to check and make sure. Was that your musical world there, Trevor?
For this week, yeah.
Okay.
That's kind of what I've been focused on.
Just in case you had some I had lunch with Ace Frehley or something you wanted to.
That too, yeah.
Well, mine's nothing like that. However, for myself, I have a hand-wired amp that one of our former guests built. He had since passed, but he was a really early contributor on the show. He was on episode 9 and 10, I believe. And he was a local guy that hand-wired his own amps.
Dave.
Dave Harris.
Yeah.
And I have one, and it started to get a little squealy on me, so I took it over to Rob Chafe and let him check it out. And I'm supposed to pick it up tomorrow night. I'm very excited about that.
We do miss Dave Harris.
What was wrong?
I don't know.
You don't know?
He said, he kind of gave me the rundown a little bit before, but I said, well, when I pick it up, you can tell me all the things that are actually wrong, because he was like, it might be this, it might be this, it might be this. So anyways, we'll see what happens. So I'm excited to put that back in action. And yeah, anyway, so that was my little week right there.
Nice.
Yes.
Well, enough of that. Let's move on to
let's do
the speaker replacement 101.
correct.
I love it.
When we were out at WinterNam, I had a chance to speak with both of these chaps on the phone. Talked to Trevor at length about some of the new speakers that they had coming out, which was really great. I enjoyed talking with him as you, Trevor. I will speak to you in your first person. And had a great talk with John. And as he says like, hey, I'd love to come back on the show. I'm like, perfect, because I've got an idea. And that was, we get a lot of questions about, I have an amp. I don't know what kind of speakers to put into it. Sometimes it's difficult unless you hear them, but how can you hear them unless you buy them? What do you need to consider? So we thought, hey, that would be a really great 101. Now, we've had Warehouse Guitar speakers on previously, and you have to go in the Wayback Machine to find that. You guys were on pretty early, and I really did appreciate having you on so early. We did an extensive episode on literally everything you need to know about a guitar speaker and how it works and what are the parts and the components and why it does those things. It was so informative, and for a very long time, it was our highest rated episode.
Awesome.
Yes, with this one, we want to focus on, all right, so let's say you've got a consumer style. Would that be the best way to put it, gentlemen?
Yeah, sure. Just, I guess, non-boutique, mass-manufactured products, some you typically find in Guitar Center or Sam Ash.
Yeah. So your top-selling combo, usually a combo amp. We're going to attack a couple of cabinets by themselves based on what amp might be associated with that, and really you just want to find out, what could I replace those factory speakers with? If I'm looking for a different type of sound, or maybe it's damaged, or maybe it's really old, or who knows what,
Or blowed up.
Maybe you've done blowed it up.
Don't want to do that.
Or has sun damage. That's also people leave them in the rooms by the windows.
SUNN damage?
Yeah, it might be for sure. So I'm really excited to talk about this. And guys, you were gracious enough to jump on. We're also, towards the end, as John mentioned, we're going to talk about another endeavor that they are associated with, which is all pedals and the kits that they are producing. So we got a little bit to talk about on the backside of this.
Yeah.
So guys, when we first started talking about this, what were your initial reactions?
When we first started talking about
This episode.
upgrade options?
Yeah.
Well, you sent us a pretty good list. Everything from Blues Junior, which I personally own, Deluxe Reverbs, which is probably one of the most gigged amps ever. Hot Rod Deluxe is also up there. Vox, and then the newer Boss Katanas. It's a really good mix. So I think our recommendations will not only help the owners of these amplifiers, but if somebody has something similar and with a similar tube complement or power rating, and they're looking to either get a little bit more volume or maybe dial back the voicing, I think they'll still be able to take these suggestions and apply it to their amplifier at home, even if it's not something we talked about. So I think we have a pretty good spread to cover.
Perfect.
And then if they're one of these amps is not on this list that we're going to talk about, they can always contact you, and I'm sure you guys have plenty of really good suggestions too, right?
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah, definitely. And where can they do that?
Info at wgsusa.com.
Cool.
Yep,
Now,
we have a contact form through our website as well. You can call. I'll be the guy who answers. I recommend speakers to people every day. Number is 270-321-1003.
Perfect.
And
Okay, so guys, when people are going to consider, hey, I need a new speaker set, what are some of the reasons that they might be looking to replace?
Well, I think the number one reason is obviously there's something lacking in the voicing of the amplifier. Whether they're trying different guitars with single coils, humbuckers, there's still something missing, and they're trying to either sound like one of their heroes on a record or trying to match the sound that's in their head. So different magnet sizes are one of the bigger attributes to the voicing of the speaker, as well as the cone.
How does let's just jump right in that stuff. How does a magnet really affect your voicing?
So with ceramic, which is one of the widely used materials in guitar speakers, there's traditionally two sizes. There's the M, which is medium weight 35 ounce, and that's typically 97 dB efficiency. The heavy H magnet, those are 50 ounces, and those are typically 100 dB. So that 3 dB difference doesn't sound like much, but sonically it is tremendous. So you will get so like our Green Beret versus the Reaper. So very similar soft parts, but the only difference really is the magnet size. So
right.
The Reaper does a lot of what that Green Beret does, but it gives you more. You get more top end, more mid range, more low end, and a greenback is the Green Beret is just a more balanced voicing of those British tones that we know.
Okay, and just for clarification, the Green Beret and the
Reaper.
The Reaper. Sorry, thank you. I blanked out real quick. And those are both WGS model speakers. And as we go through this, they're going to be referencing those models that they have with these. But that said, this is they're passing on the information to whatever speaker company you want to use. This is going to be helpful information. Now, that said, they make some pretty outstanding replacement speakers. They are the leaders in replacement speakers. So, that's why we have them on. All right. Now, how about some other things to consider when you are looking for a replacement speaker?
There's also Alnico, just one more magnet material to mention. It's one of the more expensive motor structures out there. It's an alloy of aluminum, nickel, and cobalt, and that also is typically 100 dB efficiency. And it's a very highly revered material. Typically, just people associate like a bright, lively, chimey top end to it, while still having some mid-range complexity and more than adequate low end presence as well. But things to consider are, if let's say your amp you could use a little bit more oomph out of it. It's just not maybe cutting through in the mix. You're getting lost in a band situation. You could potentially have M magnet speakers in there, throwing some H magnet drivers, getting that extra 3 dB. That will absolutely help you be more present in the mix, and not just in the SPL, but also, like I said, the voice, and you get more of what that speaker is doing and what your guitar and amp are trying to push through it.
Mm-hmm. Now, I got a question for Trevor. This is something that I've heard referred to with other guitar players, but sometimes you'll stand in front of an amp and you're like, whoa, and then you'll stand in front of another amp and you won't say whoa. Part of that is coming from like what we're calling like pushing air. Now, they may be similar amps in nature, but like one is literally feels like it's pushing more air. What is, if they're honest, how much does a speaker play into that?
A speaker honestly plays a huge part. It's the last part of your signal chain. And really it's you wouldn't think so, but it's an aspect of the amp that gets overlooked very often. I was even one of these people. Once upon a time, I didn't think that the speaker that I had in the amp mattered really. Just whatever's in there. If it makes sound, that's how it's supposed to sound. But really, it's very important, and it's one of the easiest ways that you can upgrade the sound of your amp. Right.
Now, if I think myself included, I would look at this list and say, well, surely there are people who are saying we've spent months trying to figure out what speakers should go in this particular amp. So why would I, my little self, think that I'm going to do it better, or maybe different-er in a better way. But
well, we should also remember, and this isn't a knock on any of these manufacturers, is they're also trying to hit a certain price point so that the amp is affordable, that the supporting retailers have inventory that they can move to potential customers. And to hit certain numbers, you have to, you make certain concessions on the build. So a lot of these speakers, they're decent workhorse utility speakers, but companies like WGS were in the business of an upgrade. So when you invest in our products and you install them, you will understand why that upgrade matters and is relevant to your tone. It's like Trevor said, it's the last component in the chain, and it's one of the easiest and more affordable upgrades somebody can do. The alchemy that these companies do in their design phase, there's like I said, they're trying to hit a certain price point. So they give you a great platform, and you're absolutely free to take that platform to the next level, depending on what the tone in your head is that you're trying to achieve.
So you've
a lot of times,
it sounds like you've talked about this before. Is that
been doing this with speakers over 15 years now?
I mean, honestly, like I just looked over at Tony and gave him the AOK signs. This is really great. It's already, I'm excited about this, and I can't wait to hear what you guys are saying. And I've already learned a few things, which is also, I guess, pretty easy because I don't know everything. So it's true.
Well, I mean, it's a lot like, a guitar player will think nothing of putting a different set of pickups or several different sets of pickups in a guitar, but they may not even think about changing out a speaker. So I think this is
and that's true. I did retail for 7 years, and when people were looking to upgrade their rig, they absolutely went for pickups first over a speaker usually.
Mm-hmm.
A lot of times when someone replaces the speaker in their amp that they're so used to hearing in a certain way, it's kind of a eureka moment, and it's pretty undeniable.
Yeah, it becomes like a new amp for a lot of people. A lot of people have come back to me and said, "Look, I had this speaker in here for 5 years. It blew, or I just got tired of it. Whatever. I put this. It's like a whole new sound. It's like and that new sound can, hopefully, it creates a whole new level of inspiration. And you want to play more, and you're maybe going outside of what you normally do, and you're being more creative because of that new voicing in your amplifier."
You made a good point of saying, it is affordable. I think most people don't consider this for whatever reason. I know I didn't. When I first started looking into this, I was like, oh, geez, that's going to cost me a fortune. It so doesn't. You can get pretty much like a set of speakers for less than a pedal.
Right.
In most cases.
Right, exactly.
So, boy, oh boy, we got a lot of stuff to talk about. And I'm sure anybody who is listening who said, hey, wait, that's my amp. All right, I'm just going to kind of cruise down the list so that you're not waiting around forever to find out. We're just going to get into this, all right? Number one amp. Now, I did submit a list, and we based this off of the most popular amps that we could find on cross between Sweetwater, Guitar Center, and Reverb. This is not all of the amps. This is a basic selection, so we kind of hit all the major points. We heavied up a little bit on Fender because they have so many different amps that offer different things. So, and obviously that's a pretty popular brand. I would like to go ahead and start off. John, you said, let's start off with the one that you own.
Blues Junior. Yeah, so I've had a Blues Junior since 2003, 2002, somewhere around there.
Nice.
And I put a ton of different speakers in it, but I prefer a larger H magnet driver in there. I think that 15 watts, as it stands, is a pretty loud amplifier. But throwing an H magnet driver in there just really brings out every little bit of wattage that amp has. And the EQ is pretty large on it. It's got a ton of low end on tap, the mid range, the treble. Everything is it's really big voicing for such a small 15 watt package. So, my personal preference is a large H magnet driver in there. But lately I've been playing some of the WGS smooth cone speakers, and I don't know if a lot of people are really hip to the American vintage smooth cone drivers, but the benefit with the smooth cone driver is if you have a bright amp, like a Hot Rod Deluxe or some of the Vox stuff, the smooth cone really does a great job of smoothing out the top end. It does a great job of taming it without really restraining. It's still very present. You still have plenty of control with your tone stack, but if it's a little spiky and it hits your ear a bit hard, a smooth cone driver might be the remedy you need, while also keeping all that rich mid range and low end
Nice.
in the voicing. So that's something else that you might want to check out for your Blues Junior. And one of our main house recommendations is the Reaper. So like I said, it's an H magnet driver, 30-watt treated paper coil, and that's a great complement for that circuit.
Yeah, don't fear the Reaper.
Don't fear the Reaper. Definitely not.
Somebody was gonna say that. Hey, Trevor, really quick, can you explain? I know that John already kind of went through a smooth cone driver, but
Sure.
maybe just aside from the sonic things about that, what exactly is a smooth cone driver like?
It's just literally a smooth cone versus the either ribbed or seamed cone that you see in most speakers.
Oh.
And again, it gives you a warmer sound. Breaks up really nicely, really smooth.
So if you are thinking, well, maybe if I don't want it to be smoothed out, and if you're looking for, so as we go through some of these amps and you're wanting maybe more punch, more power, more, I'm assuming that's what you're going to get with the ribbed cone.
Yes, roughly, yeah.
Okay.
And the Reaper is a really good option for the Blues Junior. It's one of the ones that I recommend the most, and really turns that amp into a more usable sort of thing.
Awesome. Great.
And one model we recommend with just about every Fender circuit is the ET65. That speaker is it's a typical rib cone. It's an M magnet driver, so you have about 97 dB efficiency. But there's just something about that design that does a great job at really focusing some of those really big sounding Fender circuits. You still get plenty of articulation and detail, but the dynamics are just really punchy, and it just does it's a really good pairing with just about every Fender circuit that can accommodate a 12-inch driver.
Awesome.
So what is what would normally come stock from the factory and like a Blues Junior?
Mine had an Eminence special design.
Okay.
That's
which
right.
Is a very small magnet driver. Like I said, it's just a utility driver.
Right.
It does a decent job at pairing with the circuit out of the factory, but it's nothing really, really tremendous. So.
One of the weak points is the low end response. When you hit that speaker with all the low end that's capable from the Blues Junior, it kind of just gives up and farts out at a certain point.
Kind of like Tony.
I'm giving up.
Yeah. Awesome. That's great. Let's continue down the Fender line really quick. How about the let's see. What do you guys want to tackle next?
Deluxe Reverb. There's a ton of those out there. What do you think, Trevor?
I kind of stick to two speakers for the Deluxe Reverb that tend to do best. One is the ET65 that John already mentioned. It does a really good job at sort of retaining that classic blackface sound, while also improving your bass response, sort of warming up the top end response, while still keeping that sparkle that you want from a Deluxe Reverb.
That's actually probably a good distinction. I think a lot of times when people are thinking about Fenders specifically, high end comes into play, and if there's a difference between sparkle and ice pick.
Exactly.
Right?
Absolutely.
Sparkle is what, when you hear Johnny Marr play, you're like, oh yeah, bring me that. But then you get one and then you plug it in and you're like, That does not sound like Johnny Marr. It might be the fingers too. I'm just saying, but
it's quite possible.
Yeah.
Well, how about what's your take on for guitars specifically, 10-inch speakers versus 12s?
10s generally will be a little bit more mid-range geared. A 12, of course, is going to have more bottom end response, maybe a little bit more articulate top end. But I like 10s for that reason. Guitar is a mid-range instrument, and on stage or in a band mix, you want to be heard, and a 10 is really good at doing that when it's mic'd.
Interesting. So for those who are considering 10s, or maybe not considering 10s, and you should be potentially, depending on what you're doing, actually. Our pal Drew has his amp is coming out, Drew Fopp, and he's got his new Los Dos amp that he just released. He's only making 40 of them. They're hand wired, and he's got one with an accompanying. If you buy the head, he'll give you the cabinet, but it's got 2 10s. And when he said that, Jared and I both went, "Really? Why 2 10s?" Because the combo has a single 12, but I think he'll also do it with a single 10, but. And so that's interesting to find out why a 10 might work. Interesting. Very interesting. I'm so interested. So on the deluxe reverb, do you find that there's any difference between the black face or the silver face at all?
Not really. No.
Okay. All right. All right. So we've got deluxe reverb down. Blues Junior down. How about the Princeton?
Ooh. For a Princeton, there are a few 10s that will work. If you want to kind of stick to the original sort of sound that you get out of a Princeton, I would lean towards a Veteran 10. Our Veteran 10 is a speaker with a small magnet. It's an 18-ounce magnet. Not quite as robust as our others, like the G10C, G10CS, and you'll also notice that it's a 20-watt speaker versus the 75 watts with the G10C. That speaker breaks up at a fairly low volume, so if you do want to get that grit at a reasonable volume level, the Veteran 10 is really good at doing that. On the other hand, if you wanted something a little more clean, something with a little bit more bass response, maybe a little more pedal friendly, the G10C is a really good option. And then even further, if you like what the G10C might be giving you, or and you might want something a little warmer, some people tend to think the Princeton's a little too bright. The G10CS, the smooth cone version of the G10C, is it's a good remedy for that.
That's interesting. Now you have you brought up something which I'd like to push on a little bit. When we're talking about headroom versus breakup, what components should I be considering in an amp or in a speaker when if I am hoping to get more headroom or hoping to get earlier breakup?
The magnet weight is a big one. The power handling rating is also pretty, it corresponds to that pretty closely. So we've got the 20-watt Veteran 10, the 75-watt G10C. One's going to be a lot cleaner than the other one.
So it would be okay if I said, you know what, I really want my amp to break up early. I want to get the actual amp sound. I'm okay to sacrifice some headroom. The factory speaker is 60 watts. Mm-hmm. But if I drop a 20 watt in there, nothing's going to blow up. It's just going to break up earlier.
Right. Yeah.
Okay. Could you do that reverse? Could you say, hey, it's a 60 watt speaker, but I'm going to put a 100 watt speaker in? Does that still work that way?
You could. It might be a little sterile, but a 75 watt speaker in that amp works just fine, considering that you might want to keep it clean.
So I think one thing you want to make sure is if your amp is rated at a certain output wattage, you don't want to use a speaker that's lower rated. In other words, if you have a 50 watt amp, you don't want to put a 20 watt speaker into that.
Sure.
Yeah, that's correct. You run the risk of blowing that speaker, especially if you're somebody that really drives your amp and comes close to cranking it. That can absolutely fry that voice coil.
Yeah. Okay. Gotcha. All right. A little bit of a distinction there. Hopefully everybody followed along.
The amp will break up very nicely.
Yeah.
And very early.
Speakers will.
Now, as far as I know, another major component of the speaker is the dust cap. Does that play into this at all?
Yeah, absolutely. There's different materials, and depending on the size and the material, can absolutely one of the first things that affects it is the high end. So, larger, flatter dust caps, they have a tendency to kind of smooth out the top end, while smaller, tighter domed dust caps let more of that top end through.
Okay, and just for if everybody's like, what the heck is a dust cap? In the center of your speaker, the little round part that usually, if you touch it, is never going to go back out.
Don't touch.
Yeah.
Do not touch.
Right.
The little
Especially
sphere.
if the speaker is moving.
Yes. Okay, so that's good to know. So when selecting a speaker and it's talking about a dust cap, if you're like, hey, I really want to maintain my highs, a smaller dust cap will contribute to that.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, absolutely.
Cool. Look at me learning stuff. All right, let's. I think we're kind of good on the fenders. I think right now.
Yeah, let's move along.
Well, with regards to headroom and wattage,
yeah.
typically higher wattage speakers, they're also using a more heavier voice coil material, more heat resistant, such as Nomex. It's typically around 60, 65 watt power rating, and Kapton and fiberglass for really higher wattage drivers, upwards of 80 to 100 watts. And what you can expect from it, you will get a little bit more detail. It's a more rigid material. It's stronger, so it's gonna govern that cone a little bit more. So you will get a little bit more headroom. You will get a little bit more detail and articulation with a higher wattage speaker. So some of those vintage tones from the 70s, where guys were using 25 watt drivers with their 100 watt Marshalls, and you hear that speaker break up, that part of that cranked Marshall tone. That's also because of that treated paper voice coil in those drivers.
Okay. Yeah. So there's a lot of components going into this, but that's why when you go to your site, all that stuff is broken down in great detail,
Right.
which is why this episode is very helpful, because if you don't know that detail, it could get easy to get lost a little bit.
Absolutely.
What they could do is
no fault of your own, by the way. You do a very good job of trying to explain it.
they
Yeah,
could
all right, thank you.
they
We
could
try.
just buy one of each.
Yes.
I bet the warehouse guitar speaker guys would like that.
Well, you know what? I'm gonna do a quick left turn and hop over to. Well, let's say we're gonna get back into some combos. Everybody, don't worry. But let's say you got your favorite Marshall head at home,
JCM
All right.
800.
or whatever,
Or a
other
JCM 800.
or a JCM 800.
Or a JMP.
And you've got your slant cab sitting there, and you're stoked on that. You're proud of that, but you've been hearing things and reading things online about putting different kinds of speakers in, and even mixing and matching. Can we talk about that real quick?
So typically, this is my personal preference. A lot of guys go outside of this. My personal preference is I like to match SPL when mixing speakers.
And
there's a lot of combinations out there that contradict that. My ears personally hear a bit of an unbalanced voicing coming out of the cabinet, and that SPL is just for me. I just prefer to match it, and by matching the SPL, you're also getting similar. What one speaker is doing and the other isn't. And vice versa. I find more of a complement with the mix when the SPL is matched. But again, that's my personal preference.
Could you
So the
quickly
benefit
explain
is
what an SPL is really quick one more time?
So like the dB, the sound pressure level, the efficiency of the driver. So, and that goes back to the magnet size of material that we discussed earlier.
Okay.
Typically,
Okay.
Green Beret, ET65 type speakers, 97, 98 dB, and the H magnet drivers are 100. The heavy 50-ounce magnet are 100 dB.
Okay.
So when mixing, I just prefer to keep the SPL similar. So you can mix, like a full size Alnico and an H magnet and get that same SPL, or an Invader and an AT65 and get a similar efficiency out of the cabinet. So both speakers are they're complementing each other in terms of the voicing, but they're also matching each other's projection out of the box.
Gotcha. Trevor, you and I talked about this actually a little bit which I'm sure you remember.
Of course.
At NAMM. But just expanding on a little bit about what John was just saying, if you are looking to, I think this is a great way to help get your own signature tone. We talked about other people asking about it. Could you just touch on this?
Yeah, I think you're right. One of the things that I try to do when matching speakers is consider the mid-range response for one of each speaker. One of the more popular combinations among customers is the ET65 with our Veteran 30, which is kind of a smoother, warmer take on your classic V30. So you've got the ET65 with a more sort of open, creamy sort of mid-range response, and then the Veteran 30, which is a little more aggressive, more forward. Those tend to complement each other really nicely to kind of give you, the best of both worlds.
Okay. Now, one might say, "Hey, my Marshall cab, it sounds like a Marshall. Why would I want to replace those speakers?"
It'll still sound like a Marshall, just better.
Well said. Yeah, all right. Anybody else want to comment on the whole, that was pretty specific to Marshall cabinets, but
What about mixing an Alnico with a ceramic in the same cabinet?
Yeah, that's usually what I do when I'm mixing speakers. Is one's an Alnico and the other's an H magnet 50-ounce ceramic.
Okay.
The two, I just feel like they really do a great job at complementing each other in terms of the voicing. While like I said, the efficiency, they pretty much match each other. So there's nothing that's really unbalanced coming out of the cabinet.
Okay, good.
Now let's say you take that same cabinet to a gig this weekend that you hope you're not sick at. And the guy comes up and he sticks his one little microphone right on your speaker. Do you say, "Excuse me, monsieur, I will require another microphone," or is that already compensated? What would you recommend there?
Yeah, I mean, it depends on how accommodating the sound man is, but you may have to pick. Are you going to go with the ceramic or the Alnico? So, I guess that's a different situation. If he can throw two mics in front of it and he's got the channels and he'll mix it for you, then that's the ideal scenario. But otherwise, you just pick a speaker and hope both of your choices are going to be flattering in the mix at the show.
Right. Or you could just buy an aux and just bypass the speakers completely.
Yeah.
But for sure, don't let him put it in the middle in between the two.
Yes.
All right, because there's nothing like the sound of wood. All right, well, cool. So that was a little cool segue. Let's hop over. Let's try something like the Boss Katana. That is a very popular amp. And this is a little different because when you're talking about something that is basically a digital amp, right? It's like the consideration of saying, I want it to sound like a certain something is a little strange because those amps are designed to sound like many things. How do you handle that?
Well, one thing is really tough upgrading amps like that is as Trevor will mention is sometimes you just don't have enough internal cab space to put something like an H magnet driver in. So when you're upgrading an amp like that, first thing you should do is definitely see how much space you have to actually put an upgrade and what your limitations are. The Boss Katana, from what I've seen, some of those drivers there for that. For a Boss Roland product, it does have a beefier magnet than a lot of their other products do, but it's still not even quite as big as a full-size 35-ounce magnet. But Trevor, what were some of the recommendations you've had for the Boss Katana? And
so if you have an amp like the Katana that can do a wide range of sounds, you kind of want to pick a speaker that's fairly neutral, something that doesn't color your sound too much. I tend to lean towards, again, the ET65. I'm gonna sound like a broken record here, but it's a great speaker, and it does get along with those modeling amps really well, and it's very complementary, and it's a pretty solid upgrade from the original speaker.
And when we're talking about modeling amps, I mean, we can throw in there any of the Line 6 stuff, even the Fender Mustang, which we've got an old version 2 Mustang 3 in our little studio here because it does so many different things. So that's a good way to upgrade those and get a little bit more punch out of it.
Sure, yeah.
There's also the Invader 50, which really has a lot of that British greenback tone in there, but it's a very warm, balanced voicing that while you are going to add some color, I think it's going to be very flattering regardless of what amp model you're putting through it, and I think it would pair very well with a variety of modelers.
So it sounds like me. Perfect. All right, that's mighty fun. How about now, Trevor? You mentioned this one. This one wasn't on our list immediately, but when I asked you, you said definitely the Blackstar HD.
Yeah, the HT Club 40. That amp comes with a Celestion 7080, and I get countless calls and emails about the Celestion 7080. Nobody seems to like it.
Why not?
It is, let's see, some of the complaints I get is it's either sterile, there's no bottom end presence, the top end is too bright. It pretty much runs the gamut. But that makes my job easy because pretty much anything that you put into an amp that came with a 7080 is going to sound a little bit better than the 7080. Don't mean to throw shade there, but it's true.
The 7080 goes back to what we said earlier. It's a utility speaker. It's good enough, but it's not it's not like a really high end driver. It's handles a lot of wattage. You can be used in a variety of applications, but it's not a very flattering tone that comes out of that driver.
Maybe so. Jared's got a Blackstar and he loves it. When I first heard his Blackstar, I did not like it, and I couldn't really put my finger on it. But maybe that was the reason why. Also, I'm not an amazing player, so that always makes me. So, again, I'll go back to that Invader 50, which is one of my favorites in the line. It does a great job of delivering everything we love about British tone, while adding our own flavor to it, and it handles a lot of wattage. It's incredibly versatile, and it's just a really smooth, big, fat voicing, and it's for an M magnet driver, which I normally don't gravitate towards. This one just does a great job in a variety of situations, and I think in that Blackstar will absolutely pair very well with that circuit.
Awesome.
Good. So you don't need to run out and get a new amp necessarily. Start with trying to upgrade your speakers.
Yeah.
Definitely.
Oh, yeah.
Cool. All right, Jared. So there you go. How about hang on. Just real quick, guys. We're going to just do 3 more and then we'll hop over to the pedals, okay?
Sure.
Okay.
All right. Tony, This is up your alley.
Yes, it is.
The
Vox AC15. Is that the hand wired or the non-hand wired? Okay. What do you like in that? I think I already know, but go ahead.
I personally tend to lean towards something like a greenback, which would be the Green Beret, maybe the Reaper if you wanted a little bit more bottom, and then of course the black and blue Alnico that we make, which is kind of a take on your old classic blue. They all do slightly different things, but they do them very well in an AC15.
Now, the AC15, the Vox speakers have come with a variety of different kinds of speakers throughout time and history. So if you maybe have been on a message board or something and somebody's raving about, like you just mentioned, the blue, and Tony, can you talk about that just a little bit?
Well, yeah. I mean, I have one of the hand wired AC15s, and that one came with Slush and Greenback. But from experience and other amps that I've had, I put a blue into it.
The Jensen blue. Is it?
No.
It's a blue.
Celestian.
Celestian blue.
Celestian blue. So it's an
there is a Jensen
Alnico.
blue, but isn't there?
No, there's no Jensen blue.
Not a blue? There's not another blue? Are you sure?
There's
no
Johnson
blue.
and Johnson.
Yeah, Johnson blue. Selsun blue.
Selsun blue. Yeah,
blue,
I put a Selsun blue in
It
it.
was way off.
Yeah.
You're my boy, Blue.
There we go.
All right.
Let's start that one over.
Okay. Why?
Okay, well, let's just keep rolling
That's
with
going
it.
to be a great outtake.
Just go. But anyhow, I mean that to me is the quintessential Vox sound. The AC.
That is one of the more holy grail tones is a blue with a Vox. But actually, in January, this past Winter NAMM, they released the AC15s with our G12C American voice speaker. Which was a bit of a curveball. So they did a little limited edition thing, and it was received very well. And I think tonally, it does a great job with that British circuit.
Huh.
There you go. All right, so maybe chase one of those down, everybody.
Yeah.
Let's see. Oh, I did have another quick question of, as we're mentioning speakers, and one of the first things you guys let out with was, smooth cone versus a rib cone. Is are all the ones that you're referencing? Do people have the option to choose either a smooth cone or a rib cone for each of the speakers, or?
No, they don't. The G12CS is our primary smooth cone speaker, and then make the 10, which is just a 10-inch version of that.
Okay, and everything else is rib, essentially?
The rest are ribbed, yes.
Okay, gotcha. Keep the snickering to a minimum, everybody.
For her pleasure.
All right. Tony can hardly contain himself. Let's see here. How about let's head over to back over to the UK for some orange action.
Orange.
Yeah, everybody out there with an orange speaker, speaker cabinet or combo. Not a whole lot of orange combos out there. It's mostly heads and cabinets.
Yeah, generally.
Now, let's say you got a 212 cabinet. What would you recommend for an orange enthusiast?
I like the Veteran 30. The V30 type has it's sort of a time-tested thing in an orange amp. I believe that's what Orange uses primarily in their cabinets. But if you maybe want that feel with a little more warmth, the Veteran 30 is a really good option.
Tony?
I like creambacks.
That too.
Okay. All right.
I just
If you like creambacks, you should definitely check out that Invader 50.
the Invader 50.
Absolutely.
Perfect.
Or the ET65. That's a good alternative.
That sounds like the Swiss Army knife of speakers.
Yeah.
Yeah.
There's also the Retro 30.
The ET was started out as a kind of our answer to the Celestion G1265.
Okay.
What we wanted to do was to make an answer to that speaker with a little more warmth, and a little bit more of a creamy feel in the mid range, and we did it. And then a lot of people reference the Creamback, or they'll say, is the ET65 supposed to be a Creamback? Well, the ET65 was made as, like I said, our answer to the G1265, and then shortly after, Celestion came with their answer to that, which was the G1265 Creamback.
Mm-hmm.
Gotcha.
What about mixing impedances? Or not matching impedances, I should say.
Do not mix impedances. Absolutely not. So the impedance is really resistance, and if the transformer can't properly process that, you can do serious damage to your amplifier.
And just really quickly, for those who maybe not as familiar with impedance, on the back of your cabinet, or your combo or amp, there's either. Well, a lot of them have switches, so you can switch between 4, 8, or 16. Mm-hmm. And so we can start there, just as like, all right, there's impedance. Now, if you don't have that variable, and you know for sure that your cabinet or your amp only accepts like an 8 ohm impedance, then you definitely don't want to put in like a 16. Is that what I'm hearing?
You want to match it, definitely.
Right.
Here's a twist too. If you actually have an ohm meter, and you grab an old speaker that's supposed to be 16 watts, and you select
16 ohms
or 16 ohms, I'm sorry, and you test it, it could read 12 or 13.
13.
Yeah.
Right.
I mean, so don't be confused by that, but that's kind of
I forgot how many years ago they standardized it just for the ease of being able to create a format. But it's what dictates the impedance is the amount of wire that's wound around the voice coil.
Right.
So 16 ohm speaker, there's more wire wound around the voice coil, but it's finer. An 8 ohm voice coil, there's less winds, but it's a bit thicker.
Thicker wire.
So it's all about, like I said, creating that desired amount of resistance for whatever format you're manufacturing.
Now, let's say you buy a speaker, and you on the back of your combo it says 4, 8, or 16. Okay, and you put your speaker in, and it happens to be an 8 ohm speaker. And you say, well, I'm going to see what this sounds like at 16. And you switch it to 16. Is that what's going to happen?
Nothing good. It'll work for a little while, but eventually that transformer is going to get really upset, and you're going to do some damage to the amplifier.
Okay.
Now, what you can do, and Trace Davis from Voodoo Amps wrote a really long piece about this, and he explains it very well. And I think he used the Blues Junior as an example. Is you can use a 16 ohm driver with an 8 ohm transformer, and he used the Blues Junior as an example, and he did a good job of explaining what you can expect sonically and in terms of the feel and response. That's one of the very few exceptions you can do in Guitar World.
And when in doubt, if you're nervous, just match it.
Just match it. Yes.
Yeah. If you're unsure, don't play anything until you're sure.
Yeah, gotcha. All right, guys, we have one more amp, and this is I'm just saying because I just picked one up recently. I'm just saying here. So you have something like a 1980s PV Classic VTX or something that someone replaced the Scorpion speakers with some old Eminence speakers. What would you do?
Take it back to the shop and get your money back.
No. It's an amazing amp.
Yeah.
Yeah, you want, let's see.
There's a lot of those out there. It's PV people are,
No, there are a lot of classic 12s out there.
Yeah, definitely.
Classic 212s.
I would look at probably the ET90, which is a higher power version of the ET65.
I think you should put a pair of JBLs in that.
What?
Sure.
Just
Get him out of here.
So you can just so you can peel the paint off the walls.
By the way, Tony, I replaced the crickets button with an eject button. So watch it. All right. So yeah, those originally came with Scorpion speakers, and probably even if you spent any time on Craigslist, I'm sure you've run across blah 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 Scorpion speakers, and those were the sort of the factory their own version of a really fantastic speaker.
That was their second level. The Black Widows were the top.
But
of
those
the heap.
came out later.
Okay.
Anyways,
If you say so.
well, I'm just
Anyways,
when you see
let's get Hartley on the line.
Yeah. Okay. Well, that might be tough, but so the Scorpion speaker is highly desirable. If you want to keep your old PV, factory correct, and they're actually those speakers are worth more than the actual amp altogether when they're sold separately, which is kind of crazy.
Crazy.
Because I've looked at that because I got one on the cheap, but it didn't. Someone had taken the Scorpions out and put in the other ones, right? So I said, well, no problem. I'll just go. What? How? Twice as much as the amp. Oops. Yeah, crazy. So
Yeah,
anyways, cool. All right. So it got really quiet when I brought that up. Anyways, let's move on.
Maybe you should put a pair of Selsun Blues in.
Yeah,
Hey,
I'll do that.
hey, if you like the Scorpions so much, just keep them in there.
Yeah, well, I would have. So I think someone else liked them so much that they didn't keep them in there. Oops.
I see.
Yeah.
Or they blowed them up.
They did. They probably did. All right. Let's. Okay. That is a pretty complete list without getting. That's a lot of information to intake. You guys have given us some really fantastic ideas for how to upgrade most people's amp. Like the overwhelming majority of people probably fall into some of those categories that we talked about. So very, very helpful information. And make sure that, if you have any further questions about this, contact Warehouse Guitar Speakers and reference this, and they'll help you out for sure. Also, go to the site, and you can actually learn quite a bit. That's how I actually got in touch with them in the first place. I was like, this is really good. I need to talk to them. Now, we're going to move just really briefly over to something else very exciting that Warehouse Guitar Speakers is doing. John, you sent me two boxes. One, it is the Slamurai Bushido drive. These boxes contain pedal kits. And just so everybody knows, we're going to give away one of these kits, okay? The other kit was for me to experience and build. So I documented that, and that will be, you can watch the entire build on IGTV, and that'll be coming out pretty much when we release this, okay? So make sure you're looking for that. The entire build. But don't worry, some of it's like fast forwarded, so you don't have to watch me solder every little thing.
It's a 12-hour video.
Yeah, no, it isn't. It's actually the entire thing from start to finish. It will only take you, I think, 20 minutes.
Oh, excellent.
And it's really fun because, it's me. Anyways, tell us about these things here, John.
So, David Young's been, in this industry for a while. His father started, almost 50 years ago. So he's grown up with it. He's dabbled with guitar a little bit, but he's really not a musician. But he is an enthusiast of science and technology and manufacturing. So he wanted to, after over a decade with bringing WGS to market and developing All Pedal as a contract manufacturer for boutique brands that are ready to increase their production and expand their brand. He wanted to kind of create something that allowed anybody thinking about getting involved with electronics, building a pedal, something that gave them a pro boutique quality pedal, but it was a low barrier to entry. It wasn't an intimidating project, and he wanted to make it fun and give you everything you needed in the box except the soldering iron. So he came out with these. He worked with our lead designer Justin Simpson on these kits and what we need to do to bring these projects to market. So it's partially SMT. It's a surface mount circuit, but there's about 15 to 20 components depending on what pedal you get that the end user has to install. And then there's literally everything is in the box except the soldering iron. There's 3 printed sockets to screw the nuts and everything on. Comes with the solder, and it's everything in one box. And when you're done, it took me about an hour. And when you're done, you have a boutique pro pedal when you're done. So you have that experience of trying to solder and work with electronics, and then you have the satisfaction of actually completing a project that you'll actually use. So it's something that he was really excited about, and the feedback we've gotten has been met with similar excitement. So
for those who aren't aware who David Young is, would you care to explain?
David Young is the president and founder of WGS and All Pedal.
Perfect. So he's the one who's helping us get all these things out here. Now, you brought up something really important, which was, it being a kit. Now you can get a full kit anywhere on the multiple places online. But for those who are just interested, and we get mail, we get messages about this all the time, where people are like, "Hey, I decided to build my own pedal. I got a kit online and started to do this myself." It can be daunting if you're not familiar with it. My first pedal kit took me way more hours than I even care to share, because I had no idea what I was doing. This allows you that experience without the fear of like completely ruining it. And one thing that you guys did an amazing job with are the instructions. I've had several sets of instructions from several different pedal kit manufacturers, and hands down, these are they're not only helpful in a way that allows you to not mess them up, but they're informative. It actually there are teaching moments within those instructions, and I really appreciated that.
Oh, that's great feedback. Yeah, they even give you a little bit of a little primer on how to solder. So
yes, correct.
This really is geared for someone who's never done anything with electronics, and we wanted to make it as easy and unintimidating as possible.
Yes, and for those who have been listening recently, on the Instagram video, I also managed to not be able to say that word.
Solderless.
I jammed up on it, and I was like, you got to be kidding me. So I have a hard time saying
solderless. SODDER.
Solder.
Just think of it that way.
Yeah.
Solder.
My tongue does not want to do that. Anyways, so tell us about what you have in this line. You've got, so we have the Bushido drive, which is it's an overdrive with an EQ.
Yeah, so you get a full tone stack, plenty of gain on tap, and volume behind it. So this is something he's had for a while, and so he just, I don't know, a lot of you don't know Justin Simpson. He's been building pedals for over 15 years, so he's got a ton of experience. And this design was very easy for him to convert to a kit and still give somebody a really worthy overdrive that'll be at home and just any pedal board, and it's very versatile and works well with a variety of amps and genres. What
are some of the other pedals that you are offering?
The other one is the Galactivice, which is a compressor. So this one can also, kind of act as a bit of a clean boost as well. Really, really quiet operation. Does a great job at softening up the rough edges of your tone and beefing up your signal. And then the next one that's going to come out is the Bandsaw, which is a fuzz that'll have some octave functions as well. I believe Justin is still doing some fine tunings to the prototype, but that shouldn't be too far off. Hopefully within the next 2 months, we'll have that ready to be released.
So you've got two pedals out, you got one on the way, and if you were listening out there and want to try out a pedal that you can build yourself in an hour or less, I would say, and you really just need a soldering iron and you can have your own built pedal. It's a pretty cool deal. And it sounds great too. I had it running in my app. I was pleased with what I heard. After building it, it's kind of neat to just, say, hey, I'm going to work on something. Then you go plug it in. It's like, makes awesome noise. Very satisfying. Man, oh man, we are so stoked that you guys were able to hang out with us. We are going to slide right on over to Big Jared.
That's right. Ladies and gentlemen, it's time for Would You Rather?
Yeah.
This week's Would You Rather is brought to us by our friend Coleman Marchin.
Yes, over on Instagram.
That's right. So here's his Would You Rather. Would you rather have your absolute dream guitar, but you can only play it through a Line 6 Spider? Oh, boy. Now, set to the insane mode. Okay.
That's the kicker.
Wow, this guy's
that
sadist.
Yes.
It's got to be in the insane mode, which probably sounds pretty insane, I would guess.
Yes.
That's the name.
Or have your dream rig, but the only guitar you can use is a first act Strat Cappy. Oh, man.
That's a good one. That is a good one, everybody. Tony,
Wow.
what do you think?
Both would actually make me want to vomit, but oh God. No, I mean, as wow. That's terrible. Those are two terrible choices.
That's why it's a good. Would you
I
rather?
know exactly what I would do.
Well, I'm just gonna go with my dream rig and risk it on the
Strat Copy?
with the Strat Copy.
Are you allowed to set it up, or do you just have to take it?
I think
Probably just have to
take it right
with
out.
Right out of the box?
rusty strings and all.
Yeah.
I mean, yeah, it's because the insane mode. I have absolutely no idea what that is, but it probably is not something in my bailiwick.
No. Let's see. Let's hear from Trevor.
I would agree. I'd go with the first act with the dream rig, because in my opinion, it's easier to make a cheap guitar sound good through a nice amp than the vice versa.
Okie dokie. Jared?
Oh, man. Yeah, I would probably go with the first act Strat Cappy, because I wouldn't want to play through the insane in the membrane mode.
Right.
That's for sure.
What was the guitar that you get with the other one?
Your dream guitar.
The dream guitar, it could be, a 1959 Les Paul owned by Jimmy Page.
Gotcha.
for instance.
Okay. John, how about yourself?
Yeah, I'm going dream rig and first act Strat. That's
Wow.
the lesser evil.
Yeah.
Todd, you going with the insane mode?
I'm doing that because there's no way I'm playing a Strat.
I do it.
Nope.
Oh.
I'll just roll off the old volume and
All we're saying is
Yes.
give Strats a chance.
no. All right, that was a pretty fun one. Thanks so much for sending that in. We encourage all of you listeners, just drop us an email, drop us a direct message on Instagram, and we'll see if we can use it. Send us your would you rathers.
That was a good one. Thank you.
Let's see here. Now, Tony,
Yes.
we have a couple people to thank, and then we're gonna give a notice about this giveaway here.
Okay.
Go ahead.
So is that what you want me to do now?
Yes, sir.
All right, let me get that up here. Okay. Same as last week, is that right?
Correctamundo.
Okay. At this point in the show, Todd,
Yes.
there's a very, very, very special group of people that I would like to thank, that we all would like to thank.
Indeed.
That includes Jared.
Yeah.
We like to call them our executive producers. And you might be sitting out there saying, what is an executive producer and how can I become one, more importantly? Well, I would suggest going over to patreon.com/the Guitar Knobs. And then you'll be able to find a couple of different levels in which you can participate to become a patron, if you will, of this podcast. And maybe someday make the Patreoner
Roll.
role.
Yeah, you could do that too.
You could. But forget about that. Just jump right up to the executive level.
That's right.
Because you get a great bunch of swag.
Yep.
That's T-shirts and barefoot buttons and picks and stickers and
All kinds of stuff.
Yeah. I think there's occasionally special giveaways that only our
That's
executive
100%
producers.
Correct. No, and that's not just that is for all
Patreons.
All
okay.
patrons on Patreon, and we've got a couple coming up.
Yes.
I'm just saying.
Sounds good.
Don't
to be
fall
a
asleep
patron,
at the wheel.
No, get on there. Okay.
But what's Jared? There's something special about being an executive producer. What is that?
Oh, you get to have your name read on the thing.
You get your name read on the thing.
Yeah.
By me, Tony Dudzik, Pick Guardian.
Do it.
And that's what I'm going to do right now. Let's start with Doug Gann.
All right.
How about Tim Nowak? John Esterly, Chris Heidel, Tig Harmon, Tyler Bray, John Anglin, Anthony Lanthrop, John Knowles, Stefan Lam, Michael McVeigh, Michael Senchuk, Brian Robinson, Jonathan Jerusik, Ken Sayers, Corey Nigro,
The Carpenter from Boston.
and Brad Partridge, Michael Van Zant, Doug Christ, Darren Gregory, Chris Kearney, Sean S. John Daly, Martin Cliff, and I think I'm forgetting someone. No, Tom Barazin.
All right. Thank you so much, all of you, for supporting our show.
We love
it
you.
means the world to us. Thank you.
Thank you.
All right. John and Trevor, we have this pedal that we're going to be giving away, and we're going to be announcing that, and that's going to go to our patrons. That's going to one of our patrons. So if you want to grab one of these pedals, the pedal, the one that I have in my hand, you need to get on that. Okay, so we're going to be giving that away to our patrons.
Nice.
Now, John, where can people find Warehouse Guitar Speakers?
WGSUSA.com.
Perfect. And Trevor, where can people find them online?
Instagram, Facebook, again, WGS USA, Warehouse Guitar Speakers on Facebook. And then,
Musician's Friend and Stu Mack do a great job
right.
at
Is that what you were asking?
Okay, awesome. Tony Baloney, where can people find you?
Let's just say you want a special pick guard. You're changing out pickups. You're doing all kinds of crazy madcap
Well, you just
things.
got some new speakers, so
I love
now you
it.
got to
Well, you gotta put some lipstick on the pig, as
Yep.
they say.
Absolutely.
Go over to pickguardian.com. You can see some of the projects that we've been talking about on Instagram at pickguardian and the number 1. And just let me know what you need. I'll be happy to take care of you.
Perfect. Jared.
Hey, if you're looking for some pickups, some really good either hand wound or machine wound, like the old vintage way pickups, get a hold of me at brandonwoundpickups.com. You'll see my email there and all sorts of stuff. And good old Todd here just gave me a nice bag of guitar knob stickers, and I'll be throwing those in with the orders to come.
Perfect.
Hey, do you do rewinds?
I do rewinds for $30 a coil.
Wow.
Wowzers.
How's your turnaround time on that?
Very quickly.
Wow. That's excellent.
Yes.
Thanks, Tony Baloney.
You can send me a note, Todd at theguitarknobs.com. You could also direct message me on Instagram at Guitar Knobs. And if it's something specifically for Jared or Tony, we make sure that they get that as well.
Yeah.
Yes.
Perfect. All right, everybody. Thank you guys so much, John and Trevor from Warehouse Guitar Speakers, for enlightening us all about how to replace our guitar speakers.
Love that.
Certainly. Thanks so much for having us.
Thanks, Todd.
You better believe it. And we'll be hopefully running across both of you at some other point in time in the future soon. Everybody else, have a great guitar week and subscribe!
Yeah. Okay, I'm chewing my lifesaver right now.
Yeah. Voice
The dust cap?
See how easy it is?
not there.
Dust cap.
Okay, that sounds great, Todd. We're just hanging out.
Yep.
All
Sounds good.
All right, here we go.
Dust cap. I had to hack up my lungs. I'm sorry, guys.
Dust Cap, thanks.
So I'm not doing it good enough.
Oh, you are.
I quit. I don't want to come in. You're going to
Yeah.
make me sick.
Yeah. All right. Well, that's it for these knobs. Please visit our Patreon page at patreon.com/theguitarknobs. Visit our website at theguitarknobs.com for all of our past episodes, 4 on the Floor blog, and other good stuff. You can connect with us on social too at our Facebook page and share your gear and stories on our Facebook group. Also, be sure to check out our Instagram at Guitar Knobs. Catch you next time.